Chapter 7 The Great Sword. A few days after Alicaria confronted Gregicica, they had to make their report. The meetings were held once every week, on a random day at a random time. This was intentional, to not raise suspicion. The excuse for Alicaria's disappearance had been that her mother had written a letter and she had to read it. She and Gregicica had decided that either of their mothers' writing would be code for a reminder to meet with Lady Quinia. Gregicica's disguise could not read, though Gregicica could, but Alicaria's literacy was at least enough to read a Quinian translation of the Lecaria and the Levang. So when it was questioned how this was possible, it was said that Gregicica's mother asked a local nobleman to write her letters, and Alicaria would read them to her. Gregicica and Alicaria came to a local tavern, ignored Sio's request, and sat with a woman several years older than the queen, and a younger woman several years older than Gregicica, wearing a wimple and the orange and white of a Quinia servant. The younger woman had slate-gray eyes and an expressive face, a trait discouraged among her people, but she could manage it. It even worked in her favor at times. Though she was not the tallest and had been with child since around the time the war started, she was dangerous. That second trait had been something they had not known about when she was first sent out. When they found out, she, her husband, and Lady Quinia had discussed it, ultimately deciding that it would look suspicious if she suddenly left, and knowing that, legally, if she were caught, they could not do anything to her that would risk hurting the children as well. Not to mention, if she were caught, especially once she was further along, it would make the queen look very bad. Catching any of the spies would look bad, really. Gregicica and Alicaria were not even 25 yet, and Alicaria was engaged. When the enemy had a face, and that face had a family to get back to, children to raise, a spouse to kiss, it became a lot harder to kill them, and especially hard to kill them without angering anyone. The older woman was fairly tall but wiry. She had blonde hair so light that it was difficult to distinguish between that and the gray of age, braided and tied back with a kerchief, and light brown eyes. Her eyes looked open and friendly, but a closer inspection revealed the great intelligence, almost cunning, within. She wore a dark green Ozinin-style dress and a cloak of the same color. Alicaria blinked in surprise, while Gregicica felt a sinking feeling of dread. "My lady," said Alicaria in Ozinin dialect, "I wasn't expecting you." They all spoke in dialect during these meetings because it was harder to understand. "I decided I should come here myself today," the older woman said in the same dialect, looking pointedly at Gregicica, who was trying to avoid her gaze. "Were you followed?" the older woman asked. "Course not, my lady," said Alicaria. The younger woman frowned. "I think there are too many of you." She spoke with a Cenaran accent. Alicaria sighed. "You be right, Cara," she said. Gregicica avoided the other women's gazes, her face heating. Lady Quinia sighed as well and crossed her arms. "So, Iveria, this is where you have disappeared to." Gregicica and Alicaria sat down, the former still looking down and wincing at the sound of her full name. I know. Alicaria has already given me the whole too many spies talk. I don't need to hear it again, she said. It's not just that spies can get in each other's way and increase the chance that one will be found, but also that I don't want to risk more people than I have to, especially not you, Lady Quinia said. We already have 2 more lives on the line than what I wanted. We don't need another, especially not my niece and heir. If you get captured, we lose. Gregicica sighed. I know, Mandia. Let's just get to the point. She again felt a stab of annoyance. She often wished she could just be a normal girl, not the future Lady Soledo. It was part of why she preferred to be called Gregicica rather than Lady Iveria. She looked at Cara, smiling a little. Cara sighed. Oh no, she said. You can laugh. Serving the princess was not as bad as she had thought it would be. Certainly not as bad as when she had spied Arexacico. Though there was that bitter voice within her asking if the princess would be this kind if she knew Cara was a Soledo. Lady Quinia turned to Cara. Do you have any news? The queen and her husband and daughter left to form alliances on Shadyanyeji, said Cara. Left me to make sure the boy don't get himself killed. When she had left him, he was practicing his swordplay with Zebocron. She prayed the older boy would keep him out of trouble until he returned, and even more, that Prince Gero would not start agreeing with what Zebocron thought of Soledi. Lady Quinia stiffened. The princess is gone? Her tone was even, but there was an edge to it. She deliberately avoided saying the princess's name, worried she might slip, and referred to her too affectionately. Kara narrowed her eyes. Yes. She knew it was not easy for Lady Quinia to be on the opposite side of a war from a girl she had practically raised. She had her own daughters and a boy who was like a son, though he was only about 10 years younger than her. But she worried about what their bond would do to their performance in war, and she did not like that Lady Quinia was so fond of a common Quinian. She knew the queen would not be kind to them if they lost, no matter what her mother and daughter said. They had tried to fight the crown. Though Kara agreed that the queen was too stubborn, and often said things that reminded her far too much of her hometown, it was still treason. She also knew that most of the reason Lady Quinia had gotten her the job as the princess's lady's maid was so Kara could keep an eye on her and make sure she was all right. Lady Quinia paused, then said, "Good luck with Gregio." She was not as close with Prince Gero as she was with his sister, and was usually good at finding an excuse not to watch him, but she certainly knew how difficult the boy could be. The boy Kara and Fieso had taken in certainly had his fair share of moments, but nothing like Prince Gero. "I took 3 guards with them," said Alicaria. Lady Quinia frowned. "Only 3? Who?" "Elinsco Alminio of Soledi, godson of Ferron, Elinsco Gregio of Bombir, grandson of Mesiciones Nicier, and Theophonsia Carresha of Soledi, daughter of Ferron." "Lawless traitor!" Kara spat. "She's one of us! She should fight with us! It's her mother's sword corrupt in her, I know it!" She shook her head. "See, this is why we should only marry other Soledi. You marry a common Quinian and your children end up like this." "Kara," Lady Quinia warned, "I highly doubt your own bloodline is devoid of common Quinians, unless you're suggesting that some of your ancestors were more closely related than most would think is appropriate, and possibly what constitutes a valid marriage. And your sister is a royalist and married a common Quinian." "Well, there's a reason we hardly see each other." Lady Quinia sighed. "Is there anything else?" Kara turned to her. "Just one more thing. Where's my other sister? The mad one?" She sighed again. "Kara, I need to know where she is," Kara insisted. "I don't know," she frowned. "Thank good, m'lady. She's too dangerous to be running loose." "All right," said Lady Quinia. "I'll see if I can find anything. I won't promise that I'll be able to find much, though. I have other things I must do." Kara sighed. "Fine. There be a few other soldiers acting suspiciously. They be calling themselves Eva and Luska, but I think they be Gregicica and Jarissa," said Alicaria. Lady Quinia frowned. "That's strange." They both disappeared. Kara's expression darkened, thinking of her wedding. "Exactly, but that be not the only strange thing about them," Alicaria said. "There seems to be a connection between them and Paz." "Paz? Then I'll bet anything my sister has something to do with this," Kara said. "Kara, she isn't the only person in the world allowed to enjoy pears. It could just be a coincidence," said Lady Quinia. "Well, Medicina was last seen after the wedding. So were my sister, Ferron's sister, Rachel, and Brother Dorian. Then Brother Dorian comes back to start in order and dies mysteriously a year later. Rachel turns up dead in Ardara, and Ferron drowned in that stream last year." "We don't know that those are related. Ferron, in particular, is a stretch, since no one killed him. It likely has nothing to do with your sister. You can't blame every mysterious death on her. They could have had their own reasons for disappearing, unrelated to her. Maybe Brother Dorian was going to seminary. Maybe Rachel decided he wanted a more solitary life." "Yes, but it's awfully convenient, don't you think?" She sighed, knowing Kara would not give up on this. "Anyway, I think you should just follow them and see what they do. We will meet next on the 3rd Monyeti, just before Uamnati." Gregicica and Alicaria left first. "Gezo's offer is still on the table, Kara," said Lady Quinia. Kara sighed. "I can't leave," she said. "Not yet. I'll get back when the children are about to come." Back in Wongi, when they had first discovered her condition, Gezo had offered to let her return to her family. She wanted to be with her family. She wanted it badly. But she had a duty to her people as well. Lady Quinia nodded. "All right." After some time, the party reached a rock that reached about the height of the princess's knees, shaped like Sio's hat. Princess Silenda took out her harp and played the Storm Galliard. The Storm Galliard was a quick piece, what most Cinerans thought of when they heard pirate or sailor. In the princess's fairly limited experience, Lessian's reactions to it were usually something like, "That be what you think be a sea shanty?" Nonetheless, she liked it, and so did many in Cenera. It was fun to play and listen to. When she was finished, the rock glowed orange, and the same hat was illuminated on some of the trees. The princess wanted to squeal with excitement, but the situation was too serious for that. They followed the path marked by the hats until coming to a large rock next to a smaller rock with a glowing orange hexagon on it. Princess Silenda pulled out her chant book and chanted La Consacranza, red in the face the whole time. She had studied Adelicite beyond just how to pronounce it, and things like basic prayers and the gist of what everyone was saying during La Garia, so she mostly understood everything being said. When she finished, a door opened in the rock, and behind it a sword stood in her pedestal. She was a sword everyone knew from the stories, with a dark yellow hilt carved with hexagons and a guard shaped like a hexagonal prism. No one knew what Seal liked so much about hexagons, and no one questioned it because it was Sio. The princess nearly squealed again. That day she had seen things she thought only happened in stories that were actually positive, unlike when she was right about the old Minister of Trade plotting to overthrow the monarchy, or that noble's uncle was actually trying to kill his sibling to take their title, and said shady minister and scheming uncle's accomplice was actually planning on betraying them. Everyone had stopped believing her strange suspicions long ago, but there was still the occasional time when she was right, and for months afterwards she was racked with guilt, cursing herself for not saying anything. This was not the only time something like this had happened. The way everyone had realized that the old Minister of Trade was trying to overthrow the monarchy was that the girl had purposefully gotten herself captured so he would monologue his evil plan to her. The princess took a deep breath and stepped forward to take the sword. She gripped her tightly and pulled her from the pedestal. Azanyalosa's high voice filled her ears, screaming that she was not the right person to hold her. It was like when you picked up a baby and it started crying because you were not her mother. Azanyalosa had never been satisfied with her. She did not like their friends or their standing, the fact they paid their servants and were faithful to their wives. But when someone else actually tried to hold her, she complained that they were not the Arexacico. Princess Silenda yelped, almost dropping her, but managed to hold on. The guard retracted partially, and her colors dulled, returning to her state before she was given the same enchantment as wands and staffs. "Are you all right, Silekisa?" Queen Silenda asked. She nodded. "Yes, Masika, I am fine. The story said that she was loud, but I did not think she was this loud." She was practically yelling to hear herself over the screeching. "Why are you yelling?" the queen asked. Princess Silenda sometimes seemed to have trouble controlling how loudly she spoke, especially when she was younger, but this was loud even for her. Princess Silenda covered her ear with her free hand. "What? Oh, sorry. She is quite loud and has some things that are quite interesting to say. It is hard for me to hear anything, including myself." "Do you know how to quiet her?" the queen asked, louder now. She shook her head. "Not exactly. I can let go of her, but I would need somewhere to put her." The Fia compared the size of Azanyalosa against her own sword. She found that they were about the same size, with Azanyalosa ironically being a little smaller and thinner. Azanyalosa meant big sword. She gave the princess her scabbard. "This should work." Princess Silenda sheathed her and sighed with relief. "Thank goodness!" "Has she stopped?" Queen Silenda asked. Princess Silenda nodded. "Yes, I cannot hear her any more." She slung the sword across her back. She smiled. "Good. Then we should go." They returned to Real Island to plan their friend's rescue. "Reciso?" Queen Silenda prompted. He nodded. "Thefia, Lonxu, and Silekisa, you will go find Elinsco and give him a Zanyalosa. Then leave as soon as you can. You must make sure Silekisa is all right. She is your princess, the future of this country, and my daughter. She must stay safe." They bowed. "We understand, Your Majesty." He looked up, trying to find the time of day. "We will wait until night." He looked at Thefia and Lonxu. We'll say the Faral Yashirni, and then you two should try to sleep. It will be of little help to him if you are this tired. They nodded. The king prayed with his soldiers, and then Nonsu and Thefia tried to sleep. Eventually, they found rest. Elinsco was in their dreams, but he was distant. It was as if they were being taunted with how close they were to him, yet how completely unreachable he was, separated by a river, a wall, Rosene, and the magic of Berachon the Maid. They were awoken in the middle of the night by King Ridero. The time has come, he said. Good luck, and stay safe. We'll try to intervene if something goes wrong. Whatever you do, do not let them capture the princess. That would make the situation even worse than it already is. They nodded and bowed. We understand, Your Majesty, said Thefia. Princess Silenda used her harp to take them across the river and into the trees. A girl followed, leaping between the branches like a little bird. They climbed the wall and surveyed the camp, looking for Elinsco. Thefia sighed. Stupid fog. I can't see him. We'll have to go down. Monsieur frowned. They'd want to keep him safe, so I'd guess he's in the center of camp. Princess Silenda nodded. Yes, that would make sense. We only need to stay quiet and out of sight. She frowned. Perhaps I could hide us with shadow magic. Thefia shook her head. Playing to hide us would defeat the purpose, and anyway, it's risky with your wild magic. I should do it. The princess nodded. I suppose this is where we see how well Miyasika... She blushed, realizing that she should not call someone who is meant to be her enemy by an affectionate title. Lady Quinia, sorry. I suppose this is where we see how well she taught me. Thefia nodded. I guess we will. They climbed down and began to make their way to where they thought Elinsco could be. They moved nearly silently, like living shadows, even the princess with her full skirts and lighter coloring. It seemed that Lady Quinia had taught her very well. She moved almost like a different person, more like a Soleda than a princess. They found Elinsco in the center of camp, sleeping between Exalaro, who was masked even in her sleep, and Lord Gageloso. Berachon the mage was nearby, skilled enough to be able to sleep lightly and still keep his concentration. Thefia nodded to Princess Silenda. As quietly as she could, she drew Exalaro, wincing at the stream of angry screaming that attacked her ears. She took Elinsco's left hand and gave him the sword. His eyes flew open, and he saw the moments when his predecessors drew the sword. First was Elinsco. Limping awkwardly and trying to ignore the pain in his broken leg, he drew the sword. Exalaro, she was called then, and she sighed. My goodness, she said. So this is my life now, helping this fool stop a madman. She had a very high voice, with what sounded like a Cenaran noblewoman's accent. She was smaller than she was in Elinsco's time, and her design was simpler. He blinked. You can talk? She sighed again. Yes, I can talk, and you need to rest. Not until Exalaro, all right. I'll kind of abandon her. All right, fine, but do not blame me when you get killed. Next was Elo. His companions, the strange creatures, Sylvie and Nerfe, were behind him. Nerfe was talking to herself in that incomprehensible way that small children did, and Sylvie was humming. He pulled the sword from her pedestal and sighed as she began talking. A pirate! Exalaro exclaimed. My goodness, what is wrong with Seal? Elo blinked. Be not a pirate. I be a privateer. I fight pirates. I don't work with them. You sail in a ship and fight people. Sounds like a pirate to me. The province is practically run by them anyway, so you might as well be. Elo sighed. Oh my goodness, what is wrong with that woman's back? And why is she so short? Exalaro nearly screamed. Elo winced and covered his ear. Sylvie looked like a very short elf, almost 3 feet shorter than even Elo, with rounded ears. Her clothes were strange as well. She wore a long robe, something like a dress over it, which was dark green, and something like a shawl. Her hair was also covered, though a few strands escaped and looked dark blue. Her eyes were green, and her skin was a very light shade of reddish-brown. Elves in the coastal areas of Atia, like Quinia and Ella, usually had light brown skin, while elves from inland Atia, like Riska, usually had dark brown skin. But this red shade was completely foreign to Atia. Then, of course, there is what Exalaro had screamed about. On her back was something shiny blue and brown, like a shell or a beetle's elytra. Sylvie looked up. What's wrong, Elil? She had a strange accent, making her R sounds more in the back of her throat, like how an Ozinin would pronounce it. And the way the nickname was formed was strange as well. Quinian words sometimes ended in consonants, but vowels were more common, though in Beradan dialect, O's were cut off the end of the word whenever it was not inconvenient, and L was a completely unfamiliar diminutive. L was an adelicite ending that was a short form of beyond, but the strange clicking noise was not there, nor the d sound it usually became in Quinian. The sword talks, he answered. She thinks me a pirate. You are coastal. What else could you be? Said Azanyalosa. Sylvie blinked. But looking sword? Elo sighed. Sylvie, can't we be fighting a living pirate ship with a magic hexagon who leads a crew of pirates with increasingly weird beards, and you be questioning the talking sword? You have a point. You never answered my question. What in Bore's name is that? Lasagna Losa said. She used a spirit's name rather than one of the corruptions of Beyond used to avoid blaspheming, as they had before the Natya and their Trinitarianism came to it here. Elo sighed. She be calling herself a fairy from some place called Borea. Never heard of it. She came from across the sea. So is she a pirate as well? No, she be a musician, and I be not a pirate. Elil, we should go, said Sylvie. Ella nodded. Yes, you be right. Let's go. Next was Elinsco. His view of his situation was more like an obligation. He was being dragged along unwillingly rather than wanting to do it. Like Elinsco, he drew Azanya Losa, and her mood about him had certainly improved. All right, this is definitely better. A duke's son this time, she said. Thank you, said Elinsco. What was wrong with King Elinsco I? He became king, which is better than a duke. Yes, but he started as just a warrior, and he only took one wife and had barely any slaves. What is the point of all that power if you will not use it? Elinsco blinked. Well, also he was a fool and imprisoned me in this cursed forest. Why? He asked. She sighed. He thought I was too annoying. More loud, he said, and rather archaic, he muttered. She groaned. All right, maybe you'll not be as good as I thought. Elinsco rolled his eyes. Thank you. Next was Ellie. He was much younger than the other two when he and his friends stumbled upon Azanya Losa, maybe around 7. And Darren! Really? Oh my goodness, can I have the last one back, please? She said. I did not like him that much, but at least he was not our Darren. Ellie blinked. What? He was speaking in dialect, similar to how Menyosino and Quinia spoke. She sighed. Whatever, just get on with whatever it is you should be doing. I promise it will not be found in this forest. Ellie frowned. Why should I leave? Why should I listen to a talking sword? An annoying talking sword. Because if you do not, Sia will make you. You know how he is, and since you are here, something terrible will happen. I know you are not Darren, but you must have some inkling of morality, right? What does being our Darren have to do with this? Whatever, just get out. Ellie, what is she saying? His friend, Sarola, was standing politely nearby. Azanya Losa laughed. Ellie, of all the nicknames for Elinsco, that is by far the worst. It sounds like a girl's name. Oh, be quiet, Ellie snapped. Sarola blinked. What? He sighed. Sorry, she's loud and annoying. She's saying that I have to leave or else something bad will happen. Oh, well, I think you should, Ellie blinked. What? Why? Why should I listen to an annoying talking sword? She shrugged. Well, you've heard the stories. Whenever an Arexacico and a Gregicica appear together, the disaster befalls Quinia. Even if she is loud and annoying, you should listen to her. Ellie sighed. But what about you? Your parents would never let you go with me. I don't want to leave you, Sarola. She looked down sadly. No, they won't. But you have to, Arexacico. You can't sit by as something terrible happens to Quinia. He sighed. All right, fine, she nodded. Good luck, Arexacico. Goodbye, Sarola Sija. They hugged, and then Azanyalosa said, All right, are you done? We need to go. Ellie sighed. Yes, let's go. Finally it was Lys. He drew the sword, and once the memories faded, nearly dropped it in surprise when she sighed heavily. I thought that an odd Davin who could not remember his own name was bad enough, and now I have to deal with this, an Elaine heretic, she said. Elinsco wondered how she knew what a heretic was if she had lived before the Nacha came to Atia. He guessed Elinsco had something to do with it, which explained a lot. Lys stumbled back. You can talk! He spoke in dialect. The peace between the defeat of the Jarissa King and his return had led to Quinia becoming stagnant and corrupt, preferring to live in the present with no thought of the future or past. Really, the only advancement that had been made was the reunion with Beretta under King Gregio of peacetime. Anyway, that must have been why he was surprised about Azanyalosa talking, and did not question her knowledge of what was and was not a heretic. Elinsco guessed that Arexacico had taught her, which explained it. She probably would have rolled her eyes if she had them. Yes, I can talk. Do they teach you anything, Anella? Miss was almost too angry and surprised to respond until Princess Mikya walked over. Who are you talking to? She had a Riskan accent. It was strange to Elinsco, but reminded him a little of a Beretan accent, with its short vowels. Something you would never say within earshot of Lonxeux under any circumstances. Azanyalosa made a rude comment about Riskans. Princess Mikya was tall and statuesque, towering over Lys. Her skin was dark brown like most Riskans. Her hair was black, curly, and pulled back into a bun, and her eyes were green. She was wearing a Beretan-style skirt and blouse. Her blouse was off-white, and her skirt was black and embroidered with a pattern that resembled goat's horns around the hem and waist. The sword, Lys nearly growled. I have a name, you know, said Azanyalosa. Lys rolled his eyes. I'll call you by name when you call me Quinian. I'm as Quinian as any of the others. He was getting very tired of saying this. Princess Mikya blinked. The thing can talk? Why can I not hear it? Only the person who holds me can hear me, and I wanted to be her even less than I wanted to be you, said Azanyalosa. And I will call you what you are, an Elaine heretic. How dare you? I've lived in Quinia since I was a little boy. If he did not need her, he would have thrown her. He had been 8 when Beretta rejoined Quinia. Ilishkov? Said Princess Mikya. Lys sighed. Right, sorry, she's easy to get mad at. Anyway, I can hear her 'cause I'm holding her. She sighed. What is she saying? That I'm a lion and a heretic, she said. Oh, my goodness. Really, it has been almost a decade since Beretta joined Quinia, and hundreds since the reunion. Azanyalosa sighed. Back in my day, denying critical doctrine was heresy, and people from Ella were aliens, and we knew what to do with them. None of this nonsense. Elinsco could not help thinking that back in her day, no one in Natia believed in the Trinity, and Ella had barely existed. How Quinia, and to a lesser extent Riska, saw Ella used to be much like how Tonatera and Aleda saw Quinia and Riska now. Well, I ain't from Ella, so I ain't a lion, Lys said. Yes, you are. I'm from Beretta, she laughed. Do you think I do not know that? You sound almost as ridiculous as the tyrants, and you are only proving my point. Berettas in Quinia, he said through gritted teeth. Ella, Azanyalosa said dismissively. And in my day, we did not have any of this nonsense about having one wife and wasting money on things that should be free. Lys blinked. But wait, you. He sounded like he had no idea how to even begin responding to that. Elinsco would not either if he were in that situation. Princess Mikya was starting to look annoyed. Ilishkov, as much as I love hearing half an argument, we have worked. He nodded. Right. He sheathed the sword and followed the Riscan princess out of the forest. Elinsco blinked as the memory subsided. He was back in the forest of the sword, Azagnolosa's voice filling his ears, airing her complaints about Princess Silenda. Thefia, Lonxeux, and the princess were all gesturing wildly, trying to tell him not to make a sound. He made a tired and confused Elinsco noise. Gregicica stirred, and Berachont the mage awoke, sensing that his spell had been broken. "Oh, I was just—" He blinked and looked around sleepily, then stopped as he saw what was happening. He called for Gregicica and Lord Gageloso. The Thefia grabbed Elinsco's hand and the group ran, not caring who heard them anymore, focused only on getting out. Gregicica and Lord Gageloso awoke and rallied their forces. The four ran to the wall and tried to climb it, but climbing a wall while dodging arrows, the sources of which you cannot see, is difficult. Princess Silenda yelped as one caught her in the hand, and she fell, thankfully not so high up that she would be hurt too badly. She scrambled to her feet and backed up to the wall, bandaging her hand with her kerchief, and then brandishing her harp like a weapon. Thefia called that she would make sure the princess was all right and dropped down as well. Lonxeux and Elinsco made it up all right, and Azagnolosa aired her complaints with her newest wielder. "All right, I suppose you are not as bad as the last one. You are not an Alain heretic, but you are friends with one," said Azagnolosa. She sighed. "My goodness, what is wrong with Sio? A stupid warrior, a pirate, a strange duke, an Ardaran who could not remember his own name, a heretical Borneo, and now some Ovzinin farmer." While this word described by heretical sounded similar to the Quinian word for goat, Borneo, the name Borniro, or its short form Borneo, it was a very insulting term. Zebocron, and especially his mother, might as well have thought that it and its feminine counterpart were the only names in Beretta, since it was all they called them. Elinsco glared at her for her descriptions of Bombir and Lonxeux. "Why were you glaring at your sword?" Lonxeux asked as they climbed down. Elinsco frowned. "She'd like Zebocron, or Zebocron's Tonataran cousin." He sighed. "Ain't they the same person?" he said. Elinsco paused to give him a look. "He's bad, but he ain't that bad. If anyone's Tonataran, it's his father." Lonxeux frowned. "I guess." "Well, said Gregicica, laughing, her knife drawn. "La Arexacico and the daughter of Pharaoh. You must think you're safe, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I really must thank you. You've practically gifted La Arexacico to us. How wonderful! Now," she continued, "there's one way this ends. You two tied to a tree. I really don't care what happens to you, long as La Arexacico stays alive long enough. It'd be much easier if you'd just surrender, so what do you say?" Thefia glared at her, putting out one arm protectively. "If you want her, you'll have to kill me first." Gregicica sighed. "Of course." Menyosinho leapt down from the tree. "You'll have to kill me too." Lord Gageloso raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing here?" Thefia nearly shouted, half in dialect. At the same time, Gregicica laughed. "A little boy! How threatening!" She looked at Princess Silenda. "Finally, someone your size." Princess Silenda almost snapped at her. "Never mind, Dot. I can fight them. Get the princess to safety," said Menyosinho. "No, leave," said Thefia. "I'll not leave it till I know she's safe," he insisted. She sighed. "Fine, let's go." They ran for the exit. Gregicica laughed again. "You think that'll work?" They were not sure, but it was either that or surrender, which would never happen. Thefia and Menyosinho fought bravely, defending the princess with everything they had, and the princess defended herself in the small ways she could. They had almost made it to the exit when something caught their attention. "Good evening, everyone!" It was a little girl's voice with an Ardaran accent, speaking at a pitch that only wolves and bats should be able to hear. "Quinia!" Menyosinho exclaimed. He ran to her, trying to make sure she was not captured or killed, and leaving Thefia to defend the princess alone. "What are you doing here?" she smiled. "I followed you. It was fun." "Quinia, we have to get out of here before—" He was cut off by Exalaro grabbing them both from behind and pressing her knife to their throats. Menyelsinho was smaller and about 10 years younger than Exalaro, and despite her thin frame, she was strong. Quinia was not even 10. "Well, how lucky! All right, Gregicica, how about this? Surrender, or I'll kill these two." "You will kill them either way," said the princess. Exalaro was very offended. She was not going to kill them. She was going to force them to be more guides. Menyelsinho sighed. He had come up with a way out, but it would be dangerous. He was not sure if he would survive it. "Quinia, when I tell you to, run," he whispered. She frowned. "What? What are you doing?" "Just do it." A second later, he stomped on Exalara's foot. She shouted, teaching Quinia many new words. "Run, Quinia!" She ran, and did not notice that Menyelsinho had not followed until she was safe with Thefia and Princess Silenda. He had stayed back to keep Exalaro away from the girl. Now, Menyelsinho could fight, but Exalaro was more powerful and half a head taller, and he was not used to fighting Soledi. Eventually, she overpowered him, wrestling him to the ground. "Well, boy," she asked, "was it worth it?" "If the princess and Quinia are safe, yes." His voice shook. He did not show it much, but he was terrified. "If it means there's one more person you can't hurt like you hurt my sister, yes." She looked up. "Your sister?" She chuckled. "Well, she did leave home." She tilted her head. "And I think I know just the boy to fill it." The color drained from Menyelsinho's face. He struggled, but Exalaro just laughed and nodded to a nearby Rosanna. She nodded and took hold of the boy's leg. She pulled off his boot and stocking and raised her sword. "No, do not do that," said Lord Gagaloso. They looked up and he smiled. "Just put him in chains. I think I have a better use for him." Menyelsinho struggled against Exalaro, but he could not stop her from chaining his wrists behind his back. "So, do you see how silly this is?" Exalaro asked. "In trying to rescue someone from me, you've gone and gotten yourself in the same mess." "Sacrifice has done plenty of good," Menyelsinho thought. Quinia began to scream. Thefia turned to see what had happened and briefly considered abandoning them to rescue Menyelsinho and murder Exalaro. Princess Silenda's reaction was a combination of the two. As badly as Thefia wanted to go back for Menyelsinho and all the Soledo prisoners, she knew she could not. She had to get Quinia and Princess Silenda to safety. She had already lost one companion. She could not lose another. They ran for the exit, dragging the screaming and crying Quinia behind them. They ran out the door and kept running until the sounds of the Rosanne faded, and all they could see was the mist. Quinia was still practically hysterical, and the older girls were barely staying calm themselves. "Quinia," said Thefia, holding the girl's shoulders and looking in her eyes. "I know this is hard for you, but we have to find the others." She struggled to keep her voice even. She hated that she had let Menyelsinho get captured. He was just a boy, an innocent boy who never should have been in there. She should have gone to help Quinia instead. She could have fought Exalaro and won. Princess Silenda was cursing her uselessness in combat. If only she had not been shot down. If only she could defend herself instead of screaming and playing wildly and hoping it did something useful instead of burning down the forest. Why had she never listened to her father, grandmother, or godmother when they tried to help her? Quinia shook her head. "No, we have to go back and help Menyelsinho." "I know, but we can't. It's too dangerous," she sighed. "Trust me, I want nothing more than to storm that place and rescue anyone, but we can't right now. We have to find the others. Can you do that for us?" Quinia sighed, her anger boiling over to sadness. "Yes, I can." Her voice was flat now, expressionless. She led them through the mist until they came to the river bank, where Queen Silenda, King Ridero, Elinsco, and Lonzo were sitting, the latter two trying to dry off. Elinsco had summoned Arcania and Sorrenso. "Oh, thank goodness you are all right!" Queen Silenda exclaimed, hugging her daughter. She pulled back and looked at her. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" King Ridero had gone stiff with simmering anger when he noticed his daughter's kerchief missing, but relaxed inside with relief when he noticed it tied around her hand. "I was shot in the hand, but I believe it is fine." Princess Silenda said, holding up her bandaged hand. "Do not worry, Bosico. I took it off myself. There's no need to run over anyone with your horse." "Good," King Ridero said. Longue-Sœur frowned. "Where's Menyosign?" Quinia started crying again. The Fia and Princess Silenda felt like doing the same. "Menyosign was captured," said the princess. Elinsco and Longue-Sœur gasped. Elinsco did not know who that was, but he still felt bad for him. No one deserved what the Sorota prisoners went through. A Soleda caught him and chained him up. "I do not know what they will do next, and I do not think we want to," she continued. Elinsco nodded. "Neither do I." Longue-Sœur brought out his sword. "I'm gonna kill her." He was speaking almost entirely in dialect. She shook her head. "Not now. It is too dangerous." He sighed and put it away. Queen Silenda sighed. "Oh, dear." She felt just as terrible as Princess Silenda and Thefia about it. She should have searched for him, made sure he stayed put. If only she had kept a better eye on him, he would still be free. King Ridero was having similar thoughts. "Must tell the Sorode about this. Menyosigno was a great help to us, and someone must tell his family what happened, not to explain where their children might have gone. Now, besides what happened to Menyosigno, are all of you all right?" Queen Silenda asked. "I think so, besides my hand," said Princess Silenda. "I have bandaged it, but I don't think my kerchief is the best bandage." Also, her hair was touching her ears, and she hated the feeling. "Do you think you can make it back to Quirovigno?" She nodded. "I think so." Thefia and Longue-Sœur hugged their friend. "Are you all right, Arexacico?" Thefia asked him as they walked. Elinsco managed a small smile. "Ain't feeling no worse than when Gregicica kicked me." This was a common response. He had once asked her an imprudent question about why girls cried easier or were angered easier for a few days every month. In response, Meria had kicked him and called him Niscosiquinho Quiso for the next month. Hard. Even though he was 11 at the time and hated crying in front of people, he had started crying like a little boy and had, at least, bruised his ribs. He claimed they had broken. Father Jeanfin, who, in addition to being a priest, was also a doctor, said otherwise. "Why did she do that?" Longue-Sœur asked. Thefia chuckled and shook her head. Princess Silenda smiled. "I think the king should have been riding his horse during that fight," Elinsco said. "Then I wouldn't have been caught." As the song went, "You must have heard, we, King Ridero and his horse, cannot be stopped." His friends nodded, smiling. When they reached Quirovigno, they told the priest, Father Lechon, what had happened, and also updated him about what had been going on in the world of the church. He told the town what had happened to Menyosigno. Jarissa, the Sorota who had escaped, was his sister and was greatly distressed by the news. After treating the princess's injury, the party was finally able to return home, reaching Casedo a few days later, on the 3rd Monniedji. While they would have liked to try to save Menyosigno and the rest of the Sorode, they had been away from Casedo long enough and needed to get back to it. The guards outside Inesco's gates gave them news that annoyed Queen Silenda, worried Princess Silenda, and struck fear into the heart of King Ridero. "Your mother is here to see you. The wife and elder son of Elinsco and Bombir were with her." They went to the throne room and found that an old woman was sitting on the monarch's throne. A young boy around 14 was standing next to her. He was tall, over a foot taller than Princess Silenda, but in that awkward way of a boy his age, all stretched out. His hair was brown and a mess of curls he had long ago given up on keeping neat. His clothes were orange and white, and, though fine, also very dirty from his latest misadventure. He had never been good at standing still and was fidgeting. The woman was a couple of inches taller than Elinsco and dressed in a loose black blouse and skirt, both embroidered in Beretta's distinct style. Her eyes were blue and sharp, and her hair was hidden under a black wimple. The only part of her outfit that was not black was the white lace trim on her black gloves, also the only piece of clothing that hinted at a noble birth. Despite her age and being dressed in peasant clothes from the smallest, most rural province in Quinia, she radiated power, perhaps even more than the queen did. She looked like she belonged on the throne. "Silenda Josadelia Farelia Ezaniera Agneria Quinia Boresa Arinia Grecia. I see you have finally decided to rule this country instead of running around and who knows where doing who knows what and ignoring the South." she said. She had the accent of a Cenaran noblewoman. Longue-Sœur stiffened, looking to the side where her companions were standing. Princess Silenda was concerned as well. She was in Casedo, something she had almost never done since her retirement, and had used the Queen's full name. Not just her house's name. Not just her house's name and one from her father and husband. All 9 of her names. That never meant anything good. Queen Silenda sighed. That is not your throne, Princess of Leah.